Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Scott and this is the Dynamics Post. If you're new here, each week I put together a new video on some Dynamics 365 process. So if you like Dynamics 365 content, please feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload a new video. So what we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks is the transportation module. And today we're going to look at accessorial charges and fuel surcharges. We're going to take a look at that when we get right back. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to take a look at two different scenarios. We're going to look at accessorial charges and fuel surcharges. They're all basically set up the same way. They're set up in the same place. They're all kind of referred to as accessorial charges, but I'm going to do one example of just straight up accessorial charges, and then the last example is going to be of the fuel surcharges because the setup's a little different. So for the accessorial charges, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, there's a couple different types. There's a fixed, there's a percentage, and then there's a unit. So let's take a look at how to set those up first and a quick example of those. All right, so to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to go down into the accounts receivable module, and we're going to go underneath the setup, or actually the charges setup, and then we want to go look at the charges code. So for this first example, I'm just going to set up an other charges code. Now this is what you're actually going to see on the sales order. So I've got an other miscellaneous charges code here. And this is just determining the posting here. So I've got the type on the debit side, which is going to be the customer or the vendor, and then the type on the credit side is going to be a ledger account, and then this account I've got is 403-150, which is just the Contoso data, which is just miscellaneous charges there. All right. So the next spot we're going to go for our setup is we're going to go down into transportation management, and then we're going to go down to our rating, our setup, and then rating. And then we're going to go into our accessorial masters here. This is what we're going to use to categorize our charges and basically link our charges code to our accessorial charge. So I'm going to create one just called other. I'm going to be real generic this time, but you'd really, you'd want to specify what the charge is so then you can link your correct charges code to it. But I'm just going to use other here for the accessorial master, and then we'll be done with that setup. Now all the screens I'm going to get to from the shipping carrier screen, which is under transportation management setup and then shipping carriers. But no, all these screens are under this rating section as well. So, the accessorial assignments or the carrier accessorial charges, I can get to them from out here, but I can also get to them from the shipping carrier screen. To me, it's easier to set up from the shipping carrier, but you can do it either way. So we'll go into the shipping carriers there, and we'll pick back up with our carrier that we had, which was Swift. And so the first thing I'm going to do is our screens are going to be up here. So the three that we're going to use is carrier, accessorial charges, accessorial assignments, and then miscellaneous charge there. Okay. So the first one we're going to go to, we're just going to go to them in just the order they are on the screen here. So we're going to go to the carrier accessorial charge first, and I'll go ahead and click new, and I'm just going to put our generic description here of other. The shipping carrier is already filled in for us, and then we're going to associate the accessorial master with that one, okay? And that's all we're going to do on that one right there, okay? So then let's go ahead and close out of this one, and then we'll go to the assignments, and we're going to click new. And this is where we're actually going to determine the charge, so I'm just going to put other here as well, so other charge. And we need to put the carrier accessorial ID. That's what we just set up just a minute ago. Go ahead and hit put other in there, and that associates it with the master. And then we have all these different criteria that we can enter. I'm going to leave the criteria blank, but just know you can get pretty fine as far as the criteria here, and go exactly where you want to define these charges to take place here. So use the criteria section for that. Like I said, I'm going to be real generic on this one. I'm not going to specify any criteria. So down here is where we get into the meat of it. So we have these different types. So the first one we're going to look at is just a flat type. When we select that, this gets really narrowed down. And you can either allow a discount or not. I'm not going to. And then our fee is going to be we're just going to do a flat fee of $100, right? Okay. And like I said, I'll go back and I'll show you examples of the other ones here in just a second. All right, so this basically defines the actual charge that you're going to charge. All right, so now let's go to the miscellaneous charge section. This is where we're going to associate the charge that's actually going to show our charges code with our master there. So the charges module is going to be customer. So we have those options, but we're going to charge the customer. The charges code that we're going to use is going to be other, our miscellaneous charges. And then shipping carrier is Swift. That gets filled in for us automatically. I can specify carrier services and everything, but the one thing I'm going to go ahead and specify is our other code right here. Again, all this is really doing is linking our charges to this charges code here. Okay. So we'll go ahead and save that. Now let's go ahead and let's just see what the result of that is. So I'm going to go into the transportation management planning and then the rate route workbench again. So again, remember, we don't have to go through the whole sales order process. I'm going to show it to you in the end, but you don't have to do this all at one time. You can do this in the rate route workbench just to see your results there. So I'm going to put in my same zip code I used last time, 98401 to 31001. And again, I'm just going to hit a rate shop here. And if I go down here, let's scroll down into the rate here, and we'll look at our Swift. Swift and Swift Air will be the same there. So, and the total rate is going to include any accessorial charges here. So let's actually use this one. Now, if you want to see the accessorial charges that are going to added, if I come down to the segments here, make sure I want to look at highlighting and go down to view details. It's going to show me that I've got this is the rate that is determining, then it's adding our accessorial charge of $100 in there, right? So remember, that was just a fixed rate of $100. All right, so let's go back and let's do a different type. So let's go ahead and do percentage. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our shipping carrier, and I'm going to go back into the accessorial assignments. Oops, I picked the wrong carrier there. Got to pick my carrier. There we go, and go to accessorial assignments. And so previously, I used the flat of just $100, but we can also do a percentage. So let's do a percentage, and you can choose what you want to do your percentage off of, right? So for this example, I can use any of these right here, but I'm going to use mileage, and really the percentage becomes your rate. So if I wanted to charge 10 cents per mile, the percentage of that's going to be 10%. So I can put 10% in there. Currency is going to be USD. Again, I have my discount field. I can do a minimum or maximum charge. I can override the mileage engine, use a different mileage engine, and I can divide the unit by a number before I apply the percentage if I want to, right? So I'm going to go hit save there. And let's go back to our rate route workbench here. And we'll put in that same zip code again. So we're going to go 98401, and our 2 is going to be 31001, right? And then we'll go ahead and hit the rate shop button. And so we should see that we have a different amount here. So I will point out that the mileage on this one, I think it's going to show it here. Actually, it doesn't. So it's 300 miles is what we're looking at here. So we've got that set up previously. So let's go back down to our segments and do view details. And so notice we got, here it's going to show us. So our units here is going to be our mileage. So it's going to be 300 here. So remember, we did 10% for our other rate. So 10% is basically going to be the rate is 10 cents. And that's going to give us a $30. So a total rate of $1,830. Now you can do the same thing. Let's go back and look at the very last one there. So let's go back to our shipping carrier. And we'll highlight Swift. Go back to our assignments. Now we do have one other, I'm not going to demo this one because it's pretty obvious, but you do a per unit as well. So if I do per unit, so if I'm selling 3 units, it's going to multiply the fee times, 3 units, and it's going to be the fee there. You define the currency and minimum, maximum, etc. Right? So I'm going to leave that at percentage. We'll leave that at our 10% there. Okay, so you can see the accessorial charges are just any extra fees that the transportation company is going to charge. Could be anything. So we took a look at, you can do the fixed, you can do the percentage, you can do the unit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the fuel surcharges. And there's a couple of little setups that you have to do to make the fuel surcharges work. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to set up the fuel surcharges. And then at a certain point, it's going to look exactly the same as the rest of the accessorial charges. But let's take a look at and see how to set up the fuel surcharges next. All right, so the fuel surcharges has got a little bit different setup. A lot of it's the same, but there are a couple extra steps here. So first thing I want to show you is I'm just going to go and pull up Google here, and I'm going to put DOE, Department of Energy Fuel Index, just to kind of get us started here. If I click on the fuel index, so one of the things that we're going to set up in the system is the fuel index. And the Department of Energy rates different regions for different fuel amounts, what the average cost is. So, you know, today I'm just going to set up the U.S. average. So the U.S. average for 210 is 291 for diesel. So I'm assuming my transportation company uses a diesel truck, and the average is 291. But you know, normally you could set up, you know, any of these regions or all of these regions and put the average prices there. So let's do that next here. So if I go back to Dynamics, and we're going to go into the transportation module, and there's a section called fuel index. And then first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to fuel index regions here, and we'll create a new region. And like I said, I'm just going to create the U.S. average. Actually, let's call it U.S. and then we'll call it USA average. So that's going to create the region. Now you would go through and create all the different regions that you'd want to. So, you know, they rate all these different regions here. So the next thing you want to do is we're going to go to the actual fuel index, and we're going to create a new one. And that's where we're going to put in that value there. So we're going to choose the U.S. region. And then the price per gallon for diesel on 210 is $2.91. So we'll come back here and we're going to put $2.91 in here. And then that date was effective from 210, right? So the idea is whenever they get a new average, you can go and put the new average in here, and it will price it based on that. That's part of our fuel surcharge. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, so again, we can get to the carrier fuel indexes from here. Actually, let's do it from here. You can get to it from the shipping carrier as well. I'll show you that in a second. But let's just do it from here. And so let's create a new one, and I'm going to call this one, since our shipping carrier is Swift, I'm going to put Swift Diesel in here. And Swift Diesel here for the same thing for the description. And this is going to tell us the mile per gallon here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in same start and effective date here. And then what you do is you put in a range. So price per gallon from, let's just start at $1, go to $2. And I can do it by a percentage, or I can do it by a fixed rate. So let's just say it's 28 cents a mile, and the currency is going to be US dollars. And we'll do 3 ranges here. So the next one is going to be $2.01 to $3. And that rate's going to be 29 cents US dollars. And the effective date on that one's going to be 210. And we'll do one more. Again, 210 is the effective date. And then we'll do 3.01 to $4 a gallon. And we're going to put, we'll do 30 cents there. Okay. So basically what it's saying is whatever that rate, actually put my currency in there as well. So whatever, we're going to assign the rate. So let's go back to our indexes here. So if we go back to our fuel index here, we're saying for this region, this US region, the price per gallon is $2.91, right? So this fuel index, carrier fuel index, is what we're going to use, is going to say for $2.91 is going to fall in this range here, and it'll charge a rate of 29 cents, right? So if it fell below $2, it'd charge 28 cents. So you can set up the different ranges of what it's going to be charged. Okay, so let's go to the shipping carrier. And a lot of this is going to be the same as our standard accessorial charges. But let's go ahead and highlight Swift. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assign that carrier fuel index that we just set up. And where you do that is into the rating profile. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit here. And this carrier fuel index we're going to assign is going to be the Swift Diesel. And we save that. And if we click up here on their carrier fuel index, now it's going to show up with our Swift Diesel up there. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to carrier accessorial charges. This is our other from the previous example. We're going to go new. And this one we're going to call fuel. And our accessorial master is going to be fuel. We could add a billing group to this if we wanted to. I'm not going to for this example. All right, so we're going to set up our carrier accessorial charge. And then we're going to go to our accessorial assignments. All right, so we're going to click new on this one. And we're going to call this one fuel. Shipping carrier is, actually let me make that Swift fuel. Fuel. And then our carrier accessorial is going to be fuel. No billing group on that one. We could apply criteria here if we want to. I'm not going to. And then the fee type we're going to choose is fuel surcharge. Accessorial unit, we're going to choose mileage. And I'm not going to set a minimum or maximum. I'm not going to override the engine. So this is where we're going to assign that region. So remember we set up a US region. We're going to assign it that US region to the carrier. No offset, and then we're going to do the currency there of US dollars. Okay? So now we have our accessorial assignment done. And now let's go in and do our miscellaneous charge setup. So we're going to miscellaneous charge, we're going to do new. Charges module is going to be customer. Charges code is going to be fuel. Now I'll go back and show you I set up a charges code on that. I forgot to do that at the beginning, but I will go back and take a look at that in a second. So I did set up another charges code called fuel. And then shipping carrier Swift, the accessorial master on this one is going to be fuel. Okay. And everything else should be fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at that charges code real quick. So if we go back into the accounts receivable module, just like we did before, we go under the charges setup, and then we go to charges code. I set up a code for fuel. Same basically setup as our other code, customer vendor on the debit side. On the credit side, it's ledger account. This account is 601505, which is fuel expenses. Okay. So let's go to our rating and routing workbench. So go back into transportation management, rate route workbench, and we'll use that same postal code that we've been using. So 98401, and we'll do the 2, which is 31001, and we'll get a rate shop. So our Swift shows up here. So if we take a look at that, we'll highlight that standard and go down to the segments and hit view details. We'll see that, here's our rate charge, here's our fuel surcharge. So it's charging that 29-cent rate times 300 miles. The mileage between those two zip codes was 300. So it's charging 29 cents. And then this is the other charge from our previous example where we're charging 10% of the mileage. So $30. All right, so now that we've got the fuel surcharges set up and we have an accessorial charge set up, if you remember, we still have the one that's set up as a percentage. What we're going to do is we're going to put it all together and do one example. Now, previously I've done a video on the flow through the transportation management, so I'm going to go kind of quick in this example, but I'll link the video to the original transportation management workflow here so you can take a look at it if I'm going too fast for you, but I do kind of go pretty quick through this example. Now that we have our other charge set up and our fuel surcharge set up, let's go ahead and run through an example. So we're going to go into sales and marketing, sales orders, all sales orders, and we're going to create a new one. Go click new, and we'll use account number US-004, which is Cave Wholesales. I'm going to use warehouse 24, and we're going to say OK. The item number is going to be our A0001. And for one there, I'm going to go ahead and do a reservation on that item. So go up to reservations, going to do reserve that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up in the warehouse tab and go to our load planning workbench. All right, and then we're going to add that line to a new load. So we're going to go to supply and demand and go to new load. And we're going to pick a load template. There we go, and we've got it on a new load. So let's go to rating and routing now, and we'll go to our rate route workbench. And we're going to do a rate shop. When we scroll down, we should see our Swift. So let's just do a Swift standard. So again, at this point, if I go down to my segments, I can still see, my Swift fuel and other here. So we'll go ahead and we'll assign that to this shipment. There's our routes. And I can close that out. I can close that one out. And let's go ahead and release this to the warehouse. Release the warehouse there. All right, and then we can go ahead and take a look at our related information. Let's look at our work details here. And here's our work ID, so we'll go ahead and pick that real quick. Go up here and go to our outbound picking, sales picking, here our work ID. License plate on that one's going to be 24. It's going to give me assign a license plate there. We're going to say okay to that, and we're going to put that into the bay door. Okay. So now that worked, let's refresh that. All our work is closed. So we can go to our shipment and we can confirm our outbound shipment. Say okay. There we go. Our load status says shipped. Great, perfect. So now if we come back to our sales order, I've closed that out and I'm back on my sales order. And if I come over here in the financials tab, click on that, and then let's go look at our maintain charges screen here. We'll see that we have our freight. So there's our freight charge. Here's our fuel surcharge. And then here's our other charge there for this, from the miscellaneous charges. All right, so you can see that for that example, the accessorial charges are very handy to have to be able to add charges and fuel surcharges onto your transportation costs to make sure that the customer gets billed appropriately for those fees and charges. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. That helps the distribution of the video, helps more people see it. And if you enjoy this content, please feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you get notified whenever I upload a new video. I do upload a new video every Tuesday of some different content. We've been working on the transportation module these past couple of weeks, and we'll keep doing that for the next couple of weeks and until we get through that whole module, and then we'll move on to something else. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, thanks for watching.